Roots of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. If you are new here, welcome. It's always great to have new listeners on the show. If you are returning, thank you so much. Just a friendly reminder that you can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever else you listen to your podcast. So, of course, when a new episode loads, you are the first person to know about it. Most importantly, remember that you can follow on social media pages, Instagram and Twitter at The Root of the Science Pod, or join us on Facebook at The Root of the Science Podcast. Now let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Khuthadzvo. Khuthadzvo is from South Africa, and in this episode we learned that she originally wanted to be a model, but because she attended a science-focused high school, it was only natural for her to continue her education in science. Khuthadzvo also discusses what it's like to be the first person in her family to attend university, as well as the challenges and lessons she's learned along the way. Despite this, she's persevered and is now a final year student majoring in biochemistry and botany at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. Khuthadzvo discusses her academic journey, her future aspirations, and of course, so much more. Hi, Khuthadzvo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for having me in your show.
It is an absolute pleasure. So let's get the ball rolling. Okay, give us a brief intro. Who is Khuthadzvo? Where are you currently based? And just in brief, what are you currently doing?
My name is Khuthadzo Muvhano Prudence. I'm a 26-year-old from Mamelodi, and I'm doing biochemistry at UJ. This is my last year, and I was technically raised in Hakutama in Venda. Yes.
So, Khuthadzvo, thank you for that brief introduction. Before we get into you and finding out more about you, the beginning of the show is always to sort of get to know you away from the science. But for this time around, I just decided to switch it up. In South Africa currently now we're going through, I think we are in spring, but it's like winter, but it's like summer, but like the weather is very, very weird.
Yes, it's very tricky, yes.
We've got all these crazy seasons. So I wanted to ask you then, if you had to, what season do you think best describes you? Is it winter? Is it summer? Is it spring? Is it autumn? And why?
Well, I feel like the best season that describes me well is summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, preferably because I love summer.
Okay.
Summer is like my best. Yeah, I really, really love it so much. I'm not a winter person, but I was born in winter. That's the very weird part. I'm not a winter person, but I was born in winter. I love summer because, I feel free, especially when it's summer. It's that time of a season, I'm always free, and I feel like it best describes me because it's the way I dress. Because it's definitely the way I dress.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually like being fully dressed. I have to show some skin.
All right, girl.
A little bit of skin. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's what summer dresses are for anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because most of my clothes, there's some part of the skin that needs to be out there.
Yeah.
And most of my clothes, yes.
I love that. And that just also throws away this whole stereotype of how scientists are also meant to look like. So I like that already.
Exactly. Tell me about it.
So you're like, no, I like this new age scientists who are like, no, I'm going to dress the way that I want to feel and look good. And, and even if it's showing some skin.
Exactly. That's the type of person I am. I feel like if you ask my colleagues or my classmates or whatever, they'll definitely tell that's the type of person I am. I make sure that I'm always on flick. I'm always on point.
Yes.
I look good whenever I go to the labs. Even I make sure I'm always good.
I love that. And I'm sure it makes you feel good and it makes you even more confident.
Exactly. It makes me feel good and confident. Yes.
No, definitely. So I understand why summer is your season. And also you were saying that because, you don't like winter. It's probably because you're born in winter. I was born in summer. don't like summer. I just feel like it's hot.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable. I love winter. I love the feels. I love even the dressing up. Like, I don't know, like the whole
Oh
thing.
my God.
I love the layers. So
I can't.
I think it's the contrast thing. I think it's a contrast thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of like, you know, when you were born and the beginning, right? So let's get into the beginning for you. Before you were the on-fleek scientist who's coming to varsity and looking good and feeling good about yourself, how did you get into the sciences? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or were there some people who influenced you? Like, so what is the root of your science?
Okay. I wasn't always for science. I think back in primary, I wanted to do modeling. Like, I was that girl. Like, I was like, you know what? It's either I'm going to do modeling or I'm going to go to radio or something. And then when I was in high school, I went to Meru Secondary High School, and it's technically a science school, right? So I feel like I got into science by default, because my high school was basically all about science and all that. So I didn't know any other, I didn't know any other route that I could take except for science. Hence why I chose science. And then I grew to love it. Exactly. I grew to love it as time went by.
That's so interesting, you know. And I like how people who are honest, who say like, hey, actually, I'm just here. Like, if you go to like 10-year-old me, she'll be like, me being a what? But it's quite interesting that because of your school, so it was just modeled around there were no other subjects other than the science subjects. So I'm trying to understand how that worked.
Yeah, there were no other subject except science. It was just literally just science. If you want to do other subjects, you're going to have to go to another school, because it was just strictly a science school.
Wow. Okay. So your parents specifically chose for you to go to that school, or was it just because it was the nearest school in the area? Like, wow, that's so interesting.
No, I chose it actually, because it was that popular school where I stayed. So yes, because it produced a very high pass rate, and yeah, that's why I chose it actually, because it produced a very high pass rate and all that. So I was like, you know what? I'm also going to go to that school. So, yes.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Okay, so you go to this very science-focused school and you choose the science subjects. So then let's take it back to how you end up in biochem, right? Because you said that you're doing in your final year at University of Johannesburg. You're doing your final year. So did you always know, like, okay, biochemistry as a field? Like, how did you get into that? How did you end up selecting?
Okay, let me be very, very honest with this one. I honestly didn't know any background about biochemistry. That name the name itself was just what caught my eye. I was like, okay, this seems interesting. Let me just pick that one, because it sounds interesting. It sounds like this big thing. You understand? So I didn't know any background around it and all that. And also, I didn't know any information about this whole biochemistry thing. I just chose it because that name itself sounded interesting. That's it. That's how I chose biochemistry. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I was like, you know what? I'll see it when I get there.
And then when you got there, what was it? Okay, let's say, okay, now for somebody who's listening, right, and has also never heard of biochemistry, has never done it, how would you, in terms of how you understand, what is biochemistry in a way that you understand it, or in the years that you've been doing it?
Okay. I started at University of Johannesburg in 2015, right? When I started, I didn't have any background or anybody grooming me, telling me how varsity is and what I got myself into, because technically we're like the first generation at my house to go to university and all that. So I just went in because, I have to go to varsity. I passed my grade 12 and all that. And I chose this course because it sounded interesting. I didn't know anything about it, the background and all that. So when I went in, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But as the years went by, because there was a lot of learning and unlearning that happened throughout, to a point where, I think it was 2017, right? To a point where in 2017, I was like, am I really in the right career? Like, why did I even choose this? Like, I found myself questioning such things because I was not too sure whether I chose the right path for myself. I didn't even know, because I wanted to change completely to a new degree. Because I even found myself changing. Yes, I even found myself changing majors and all that, because I failed one module in 2015, right? And to me, it was like, okay, cool, sharp. I don't want to add up another year. So I might as well just change my major so that I don't add another year. And that was the biggest mistake I actually did, but I learned from it though. Because I chose something that was completely different and that was new, that I did not know or have any background about.
So what did you choose?
I chose computer science and maths.
Oh, wow. Okay. How was that?
Yes, that was in 2017. Exactly. I was like, okay, now I'm going to a completely different route from where I wanted to go. I have no idea what computer science was about. I have no background about it. And with maths, I'm not that good at maths. I don't even know why I chose that. And I failed that year. And then in 2018, that's when I returned to biochemistry. I was like, you know what? I think I might as well just stick to biochemistry because this is actually what I know. I'm not a practical person. I'm somebody who learns by studying and learning. I don't actually like maths. So I was like, you know what? I don't know why I went to that route, but I ended up going back to biochemistry. Like I started afresh again in 2018. So technically I wasted 2 years of my life in varsity, like not knowing where I want to go or what I want to do. Because I thought maybe science was actually not for me until 2018. Yes.
Wow. You know, I like how honest you are, because I think there's many people, many young people who go through that. Because, I mean, to be fair, when you start university, you're 18, 19, what do you really know? Do you understand? Like,
exactly.
You don't, you know, you're still trying to find yourself. You're still trying to figure out who you are, you know, and you come to a whole new environment. And I think that's even more important with what you said about being a first generation in university, where you don't have, I don't know, somebody else who's been to varsity who will tell you, hey, Khuthadzvo, actually, this is the type of modules that you should do. This is the type of things, you know, so you don't have that reference point. So I think, I'd rather say, you know, I don't think you should be too hard on yourself, because, you know, a lot of people go through that. Not saying that to be any better, but I think it's just one of the unfortunate things of not having that support, of not having somebody to be like, okay, this is what happens. And I think you sharing the story, somebody else who's probably also in the beginning of their journey and they're also feeling confused and they're also like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to change. I need to come back. I think it's okay. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's okay. At least now you know, like, this is what you want.
Yeah, it is okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think now you sort of like, sometimes you kind of have to fail through things. It's hard, you know, like it's really
hard.
it's really, really hard. And I'm sure. So how did that affect you in terms of, you know, mentally? Did that type of failure, how did you come through it to be like, okay, you know what, I'm back here again? How did you work through that? If you don't mind sharing?
It rocked me. I'm not gonna lie, it rocked me, because I was seeing my peers going forward, the people I went to high school with going forward. Some are getting jobs, and I'm just like, okay, what's happening? Why am I not moving forward? But my resilience is what kept me going.
No.
Yes.
Powerful. I love, oh man, I'm getting goosebumps. Sorry. Like, your story is really touching me, and I'm so grateful for you sharing that. Like I said, there's so many of us. Like, you know, I also have to share that when I first started, I did social science degree. I started.
Yes.
I think I did what I did. I can't even remember because it was so long ago. But like I did it. What was it? Like a social science degree, and then I changed, and then I went into the sciences. So like you said, like I sort of inverted commas wasted a year or no half a year. But it's that time of where you're figuring yourself out. So I truly believe that sometimes, you know, hey, you have to figure yourself out through these things. Like, you know, those things happen.
Have to. Like I learned a lot. Hey, I learned a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I learned a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you did. And here you are in your final year, and, you know, not own lane, own pace, own lane.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really great. Okay. So now, like we said, you are in your final year. What sort of things do you do, you know, when you tell everybody, for somebody who's like, okay, I'm a biochemist, you know, I do biochemistry. What sort of things do you do? Are you in the lab? Are you in the field? Are you on the computer? What type of things do you do when you say you are doing biochemistry?
I'm doing biochemistry. I am always in the lab.
Okay.
We're always in the lab, hey? I'm always in the lab. I'm doing biochemistry and botany, so I have like two options to go by. Yes, it's biochemistry and botany. Yes.
Okay, so when you finish with biochemistry, what do you aspire to do? I mean, not biochemistry. When you finish with this degree, as the year moves, what are some of your future aspirations? Where do you see yourself?
I see myself as a bioinformatics scientist. Yes, I want to do my honors in bioinformatics. Mainly because remember I told you about going to mathematics and computer science.
Yes.
I found it interesting. I mean, I found computer science very interesting, and bioinformatics gives me that opportunity to actually learn computer science while still doing biology, because it involves a biological data. It involves the analysis of biological data. So I can just use my biological skills and mathematical or computer or even statistics to analyze biological data.
That sounds super exciting. Super exciting.
Yes, it is.
So the dream is to further pursue your studies and to continue to do the honors.
Yes.
Okay.
To further my studies, yes.
And look at that. I mean, you know, it shows that your time doing that mathematics and the bioinformatics was not in vain. You know, sometimes some of these things
that's true,
sort of work themselves out, and, you know, here you are going to do something that you wouldn't have probably known that you could do after that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So do you know, some people always get scared that like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like they have some fears in terms of the future, in terms of where they want to be, where they want to go. So, I mean, you've shared your journey very candidly. So I just wanted to ask you, do you have any fears? I mean, you've got these big dreams, but what are some of the fears that you might have as you aspire for the next chapter and the next part of your life?
My fear is not being able to get a job. I feel like that's a fear for every South African youth out there when they're done with their degrees. Because in South Africa, there's unemployment for youth. Yeah. Like the unemployment for youth is very high. So that's my only fear, like not being able to get a job, and especially in the science industry, because jobs are not out there for science, for science people, also for science students. There's like no opportunities for us. That's my only fear, like not being able to get a job after I'm done studying further. Yes.
No. I fully understand. In fact, I was actually reading an article about how postgraduate students are literally just sitting at home with degrees and not knowing what to do with themselves. And then you end up just saying, oh, well, I'll study further. And then, you know, we all know how
that's true. Yeah, that's my fear. But I also learned a bit of few things about that. When was this? It was 2018. I joined this group called Black Women in Science in 2018 through a friend, because I also didn't know what it was about and all that. Black Women in Science, because there's literally not a lot of Black women in science. So it's actually motivating Black women to actually, go into sciences and all that. So I joined it. When I joined, right? When I'm a fellow, right? So when I joined, I think I was like, there were like 2 undergrad students. And then the rest of the people there were doing the masters, honorses, doctorate, or, all those things. So I was just there in a room full of people who have already like achieved something. And it actually motivated me because they told me, you can't just focus on mainly, like, if you study biochemistry, you just want to work in biochemistry industry, and that's just it. You need to look further. You need to look beyond that. Yes.
No, I know BWIS. Doni is doing some phenomenal work, and you were part of the other cohort. I think I was part of the KZN cohort, but in the 2019 fellowship. So I have to say, even being part of Black Women in Science as well also motivated me to see.
Yes, it also motivated me too.
And it's really cool. Like there's so much more. There's so many things out there for us as Black women scientists. And even if the jobs aren't there, inverted commas, if the jobs aren't there, we can find very creative and unique ways to market ourselves and to do things, because we are phenomenal. We are. So I think, I hope maybe for you have your ways. I don't know if you do. And if maybe you do, you might want to share. But if you don't know yet, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out.
No, don't worry. You'll figure it out. All right. Khuthadzo, as we are wrapping up, I just wanted to ask you, I asked people sort of like a little golden nuggets, last words of wisdom. As you shared your journey, you said you've learned some things. So I wanted to ask you if you can just give me a little closing off piece in terms of maybe advice for life as a whole, or just in terms of getting into science. What are your parting words?
Okay. I feel like I've learned a lot of blistering truth about myself along the way, like along my journey and all that. And I've also discovered some useful and wholesome mentalities and how to handle myself. And I've also learned a whole lot about myself. So what I can actually give you guys is keep declining everything until it's exactly what you want. That goes for everything. Like, keep declining until you get exactly what you want in life. Be resilient. Don't stop. And also continue to learn and unlearn.
No, I love that. That's so true. Like, we have to be continuously learning, because there's some things you think you know, and then you learn and you're like, hey, actually, no. and that's what life is all about. Okay, the more you live, the more you learn.
Yes, learning and unlearning.
Yeah. Khuthadzo, it's been so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for catching up with me tonight and sharing your story. It was really, really lovely.
Thank you so much for having me. I also enjoyed myself.
I am so glad that you did. And to everybody else who's tuned in, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl and with an E. Until next time, goodbye.